Okay. I think it's time for some lore time. Do you remember Evil Tales, the one I made the animation about, like, months ago? Well, there's more about it than you don't understand. Or maybe there is, the stuff that I've shown, and you don't understand it. I think it's time that I explain what the lore is about Evil Tales. What is his backstory? Why is he the way he is? Who is Eclipse? I'm gonna tell you. Alright, first we'll start with my comic, The Resistance, which is where I came up with Evil Tales in the first place. The link to my comic is in the description, and for those who can access DeviantArt, you can access the comic. I will soon have a video or something that will show you who can't access DeviantArt the comic on my YouTube. Alright, so with this talk, I will also be explaining why I made Shadow really nice, and I'll also be explaining about Eclipse, and many other things that is confusing about the comic. And then I will move on to animation, but that'll be after the comic, which I made first. Now, the story starts out with Sonic walking into the kitchen with Tails cooking a chili dog. And then they get an attack warning from Tails' Miles electric device, which plays a big role in this comic. But you guys won't know that yet, would ya? And, so as they run all the way to the fighting scene where Eggman is, he unleashes a robot that is gigantic. I don't even know how I made this robot really good anyway. And so they're shocked, or Tails is, about how big it is, and Sonic, of course, thinks that it will just be an epic battle. Well, Tails ends up getting hurt by one of the missiles that come out of the robot. So Sonic thinks that he can fight the robot by himself. And because I'm lazy, I skipped it to 1 hour later. Sonic is unconscious, being taken by the robot. Shadow appears, because I'm lazy, 30 minutes later, and he is looking at the destruction that the robot had created. Then he finds Tails unconscious, leaned up against a pile of rubble that Sonic had left them an hour 30 minutes before. And Tails wakes up, discovering his tails are very injured, and so he cannot fly. And after a bit, he ends up hugging Shadow because Shadow tells him that he cares about Tails and that he will find Sonic. He'll help him find Sonic. And so then it clips back to Sonic, and then Tails, and Shadow, and then Tails gets an infection on his arm. Meanwhile, Sonic is attacking and fighting a robot that Eggman created named Saruk, however you want to say it, I don't care. It's a robot that only appears in issue 1 and issue 2, and I do not plan on adding it again unless you guys want it to be. Anyways, then Tails they end up going to Cream's mother's house, which is Vanilla, obviously. And so, and this whole thing is just an entire, chaotic adventure. This is issue 1 of The Resistance, and then issue 2 is when we get more lore about things, or it gets interesting, because this is when Eclipse appears for the first time. And then I started to think, maybe they should have some kind of backstory, Tails and Eclipse. And so, with issue 2, we already have 2 new characters. We have Rouge and Knuckles that join us in this crazy adventure of, insanity. So, it's probably at night because it's clear that Tails is leaving when everyone else is asleep, as shown. But Shadow, of course, as the ultimate life form, I don't think he sleeps, does he? I don't think he does. or I don't think he has to if he doesn't need to. So Tails gets worked up because he cannot handle thinking that Sonic is in grave danger. So he goes off without Shadow, despite Shadow saying that his tails are hurt and that he is still injured and he needs to heal, but Tails cannot take it. So over here, now we have Rouge talking to herself about an interview at Gun Headquarters. And then Shadow comes along asking for cameras so that he could find out which way Tails went. And then he says Tails had let his emotions get the better of him. Then it clips back all the way to Sonic being at Green Hill Zone, looking out from the edge of a cliff, staring out into the distance. And then he hears Shadow and Rouge behind him. And so then they realize the huge but terrible thing that's gonna happen. Tails is now in danger because he's looking for Sonic, but Sonic is already free and escaped. So Tails is now looking for someone who's no longer there, therefore he is in danger. And then it clips all the way to Tails where it says somewhere secret. Obviously Eggman's lair or something. And then we see Saruk, whatever, I don't care what you call him, as I said before. And so, clearly now he is in danger because now an Eggman robot has spotted him. Rouge and Shadow then explain the entire thing to Sonic, and Sonic is now freaking out, knowing that this might be very dangerous. So he runs off, and Rouge tells Shadow to go with him. So Shadow is going with him to help find Tails and save him. Then it cuts back to Tails unlocking and hacking a passcode on a keypad. And so the door opens, and then Shadow reveals itself as Saruk. Saruk? Stupid robot's name! I should not have named it that. Anyway, so Tails does this very cool tail whip backflip, and then he asks where's Sonic. The robot explains that he has escaped, and now Tails realizes that he is in grave danger. Then he is put in a chokehold by the Saruk robot thing, and then all of a sudden, something spin dashes the robot out of the way. Tails looks up thinking that it's Sonic, or as he sees it is Sonic. Sonic doesn't say anything for some reason. You know how Sonic always talks and is obnoxious and annoying, and he just does not shut up. Well, Sonic had not said a thing, and so Tails, being overwhelmed with the happiness of seeing his brother, immediately ran up and hugged him. Then Sonic says, "I'm happy to see you too, Miles." And then Tails suddenly thinks, wait a second. Sonic only calls me Tails. He knows I hate my name. And so he introduces that to this faker Sonic. Then the faker Sonic tells him that he's smarter than he looks, and unfortunately he is stuck in the room with him. Tails then realizes that's someone he had met before, someone he knew once, a long time ago. So, we don't know that this is Eclipse until issue 3. So, this is Eclipse. Then it eclipses all the way to Angel Island with Knuckles. And so Rouge is up there flirting with him, obviously, always doing that. Trying to get that Master Emerald. Then it goes to Sonic and Shadow. Sonic spin dashes at a Motobug, and then they continue going to look for Tails. Meanwhile, Tails and Eclipse, in which you don't know that yet until the 3rd issue, are having a conversation. And so he's talking about how Tails has to go with him to ever see Sonic again. And then Tails explains he would never join him again. Knowing Eclipse, he knows exactly what he would do. He would lie because, it's Eclipse. He's evil. And so Eclipse then attacks him. And so then they start having a full-on fight. And Eclipse realizes how strong he has become since the last time he had seen him. So this whole fight happens, and then Tails ends up getting a scratch, or a huge big claw, straight across his freaking stomach. Oh my god, it hurts to think about it. And so now he's holding his stomach, now he's in real pain, but he tries to suck it up and fight anyway. Then Eclipse punches him right in the scratches, and it makes him bleed out a lot faster, making him pass out of pain and blood loss. So he wakes up, and then he sees Sonic is carrying him, Shadow fighting Eclipse. Tails is pretty much out of it at this point, staring blankly into the abyss of his existence. Then he hears Shadow's voice screaming, "Hey!" So he looks over and sees that Shadow is pinned down by Eclipse. And Eclipse is holding a Chaos Spear that Shadow had threw at him. And so Shadow already knows that Eclipse is very powerful, and meanwhile pinning down the ultimate life form, making him very powerful. So he says his farewells. Tails freaking out in Sonic's arms, and then Eclipse brings down the Chaos Spear. And then it's the end of that, leaving you with a cliffhanger. Lucky for me though, and for all you guys, that is just issue 2, and then issue 3 I am going to explain now. So on the cover here, as you can see, it gets very emotional. Tails is crying, and then Eclipse is laughing over there. You see a tiny Eggman up there, and then up on the top left corner, you see a shadowed figure of something that looks like Tails, but it's not quite. And now we know we know who that is very clearly, but for those who don't, or if you don't, I'm not going to say it yet. So now Tails is screaming out and yelling "You killed him" in a very aggressive and very emotional manner. Eventually, Eclipse runs off knowing that Tails would probably kill him at this point. So he goes off to do whatever he is going to do, in which I will explain that as well. And then Tails and Sonic are left with a dead Shadow lying on the ground. Then they go back to Cream's house, in which Amy is baking cookies. They tell him about it. Amy drops the cookies in shock. And Tails is in shock currently, because whenever they say that it's gonna be okay, and he does not want to let go because it's still stuck in his head. Also, the fact Shadow called him his little brother. That's stuck in your head. Wouldn't it be in your head for like the entire time? That'd be, oh my gosh. Anyways, getting off track. And then Sonic overhears Eggman laughing outside. Clearly it's Eggman. I don't even have to tell you that. So then Eggman is talking about how they are doing, considering things, clearly meaning that Eggman already knows that Shadow is dead, meaning that Eclipse is clearly working with him, as seen as his newest minion. And Tails, about to go and attack him, is stopped by Cream. But when you look closely at Tails' the tips of his ear and his tails, you can see a black fading into his fur. The more you turn the pages and look, you can clearly see that he is slowly, see now his legs, and now he's slowly transforming into this form, or how he's supposed to be. And so eventually he starts yelling at Eclipse in anger, releasing information he had been hiding for years about a partnership with Eclipse that they had. Even Eggman is confused and interested about the fact that his now minion used to know one of his biggest enemies, and everybody is confused. So Amy asks about partnership. Sonic notices that Tails is changing into something else. And so Tails explains that he is obviously miles per hour, and the reason that he is changing is because he has been known as a fake identity. The only reason that he had changed is because they found out too much about him, and he programmed it that if anybody found out about himself, it would reveal his true form. That he was an ex-villain. So everybody is shocked. Sonic, Amy, and Cream are completely shocked about this. And so it is seen that Tails is clearly in pain from this, getting changed to his normal form, and the hologram being disabled. And so now we can see what Evil Tails looks like. At first, I made him with a jacket because I thought it looked cool. And then I started to think, you know what, this is way too much pencil drawing and stuff. I'm gonna make him take it off later. So, emotional stuff starts to happen once again. And so, then Evil Tails, as he calls himself, he will stay on the good side, leaving Eclipse very disappointed. So then Knuckles comes and joins the party, assuming Rouge is as well. And so, yes, Rouge joins, as I said. And then she notices and really likes his new outfit. And then he very quickly just randomly says that he was a villain once and leaves her like, wait, what? And then he starts taunting Eclipse. Eclipse saying that he really would want to fight him. Then he says that just because he is partly evil doesn't mean that he wants to join him. So he is saying that he is evil, but he's also good, if that makes sense. So I guess neutral in his own way, but he would never join Eclipse for specific reasons, in which I will explain during the animation talking. But anyways, he unzips his jacket, revealing that, and this is the part where I'm just like, I gotta explain this. The scars on his chest are a representation. They're not exact, but they are a representation of the scratches in the second issue. It's just a part of the form getting taken into, like, him going back into how he was once before, many years ago. So, during the hologram disabling process, the scratches on his chest heal instantly, but they turn into scars immediately. So that is why he has scratches or scars on his chest like that. And like I said, they're not exact because it was a hologram, and so it's just it was like a representation to the scratches in the second issue. But anyways, continuing on with the story, they have a fight and big conversation, and then all of a sudden, he starts glitching back and forth between his hologram form and his regular form. So he asks Rouge to go and find his Miles electric device that he had left in the city in the first issue, because clearly he did not take it back. And so Tails in pain passes out from the hologram, being very painfully glitching him in and out of his actual body, which is, if you think about it, it sounds very painful. Rouge finds it, breaks it, and then Tails is back to his normal actual form. So then Sonic, while Evil Tails is unconscious, Sonic starts to question what else Tails is hiding from him, and what else he was involved with in his past. And so then Tails has a dream about him in a white void, or a white room, however you want to think of it, I don't care. And then a dark figure approaches him, telling him that he won't hurt him, that it's just him, Shadow. Tails, being overwhelmed with sadness and joy, hugs Shadow almost immediately after, and then Cosmo appears. Now, I didn't really like that Cosmo appeared, but I wanted there to be an extra page of random stuff. I'm not even sure if I'm going to add Cosmo again, but let me know if you want me to. Let me know in the comments. So then he wakes up, and then he realizes that he does not want to lose anyone else. And then Sonic tells him that there's nothing to worry about and that he would never lose him ever. He would never leave him. And don't worry. So they have a hug, and then Sonic says, "Where can we find the Faker?" as he says. And then it stops at a cliffhanger with Evil Tails saying, "I think I know where he is." Now, I am currently making a 4th issue because I think this story should continue, because I'm getting kind of interested myself in my own story, which is saying something because my stories all suck. Anyways, so now we're getting to explaining the animation. So the animation is Evil Tails versus Eclipse, which I made. It took 2 months to make. Oh my god. I'm better at animating now, and I'm looking back at this and I'm like, oh my god, I should have done more. I should have worked on this more. But it would take longer, more months, and I was just kind of lazy at that time. So they're fighting, clearly, and so eventually it'll clip into this backstory, or into this thing where Eclipse sees Tails when he was younger. Now, with this, I was like, what can I do to make him seem more innocent looking? Since he looks very, terrifying. He looks very terrifying, yes he does. And so, then I make this backstory about when he sees Sonic. And so now I'm going to explain this entire scene. He sees Sonic, and then he sees that Sonic had saved people, and they did not fear him. They cheered for him. They thanked him. And so he wondered, what if I could be a hero too? So then Evil Tails creates the Miles Electric device. And then he decides to try and make a hologram to make himself look less terrifying and make him look more as an innocent person than an evil person. Eclipse finds out and kicks him out of the house, trying to break the device as he throws it out the door, leaving and abandoning Evil Tails. Now, okay, here's the thing. They were partners. Yes, they were partners. But also, Eclipse was Evil Tails' parental guardian. Yes, he took care of him like he was. But anyways, so then he decides, I am going to become a hero and a better person. So he activates a hologram and makes himself look like a completely different person. Or more different. As the same form as me. As me, yes. And so that's the first cutscene as there is. And then the next one, it is seen that he is being bullied. Now, we all know that Tails was bullied because of his tails and stuff. But I decided to make it to where that this is how he met Sonic and also Amy at this time. Because why not? I was thinking of making them all classics, but the classic thing is kind of confusing and the timeline is really messed up in the Sonic universe. So I decided, why waste my time? So next there is this next part, his super form. So he gets a mind connection with the Chaos Emeralds, and then he turns into the super form that I created. So he gets red fur replacing the black fur, and then his eyes go red and his iris goes completely blue, both of them, like his regular eyes would. And so he can fly and his fur turns yellow like they would if it was his actual super form. And so I tried to make him very intimidating and cool looking. Also, he can shoot yellow fireballs. It's just a trip. Also, he can make shields out of thin air. It's perfectly normal. Now we have another cutscene about him staring at his Miles Electric device, which is a message saying he has guilt over it and he thinks of it as a burden, pretty much. So anyways, isn't this cool though, this fight scene? I really love this fight scene. The super one is my favorite part. So at the ending, or near the ending of the animation, we get to the part where it is showing what happened in the comic. And then Tails gets really, really angry, and then he tries to stab Eclipse with his main weapon, the knife, and then Shadow's ghost comes and stops him. Now, that is a confusing thing, but I am going to explain why he did that. The reason he did that was because he knew that even if he did kill him, it would not do anything but bring more pain to Tails. So that is basically why Shadow even stopped him in the first place. And now I'm going to explain why Shadow was even nice anyway. The thing is, I made it to where Shadow felt a brotherly connection with Tails, which is why he was so nice to him. And as you can see, not very nice to any other people. He felt very concerned for Tails and his well-being, and he felt responsible for him. just like Sonic would. Know everything about Evil Tales, the resistance, the animation, and everything else. Also, I am still working on part 2 of Evil Tales vs. Eclipse. Thank you guys for watching this. This took so long to do. And by that I mean it took a day, but my throat is dying now. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!